Okay, so it seems like everybody's now in the webinar. So again, very warm welcome. We're very happy that you're here. And let's start right away with our first guest, Dr. Dominika Kalinowska, who will say a few welcome words and lay the ground for this webinar.
Thank you so much, and also welcome from my side. I hope I'm audible. Everyone can hear and see me okay, and definitely it's a great pleasure to welcome all our esteemed participants to today's webinar on bidirectional charging in business models. I would like to welcome everyone and set the scene a little bit, not only on behalf of JZ, but also on behalf of our Thai-German cooperation project for energy, mobility and climate, with whom GIZ, but also other project implementing partners under the lead of Agora Verkehrswende have been organizing different activities, and one of them is this webinar. So I would like to welcome everyone and thank you for joining. We will go a little bit through the agenda and of course the contents and the contributions later on. But before that, maybe I would like to share a little bit of introduction on what the Thai-German cooperation project is about and how it links also to today's webinar topic. So the project is a cooperation project between Thailand and Germany, Germany and Thailand. And the key objective is to support Thailand to support each other in much mutual learning and knowledge exchange, capacity building on topics regarding decarbonization of key emitting sectors in the context of energy transition and electrification. I think the most important aspect of this project is what we are trying to do is not only to look separately in the different sectors like energies, transport, industries, biomass agriculture, climate financing, but in particular look into the cross-cutting issues, challenges, as well as opportunities. Yeah, cross-cutting meaning sector coupling at the cross section, so to speak, for our topic, in particular between the energy, renewable energy sector and the transportation sector, where in particular electrification, electric vehicles have been identified as the key measure to help decarbonizing the transport sector. But we look beyond that, and there we see that especially looking into topics around charging infrastructure, bidirectional charging, EV batteries, there are more opportunities how this sector coupling, how bringing these technologies together in the transport and energy sector can go beyond the mitigation potentials of electric vehicles, but also look into what else can be achieved from the sector coupling perspective. So a lot of potentials, I think here, looking into the sector coupling opportunities of electrification of the transport sector, increasing the renewable energy share for electricity production, but also a lot of challenges. Yeah, how can we deal with requirements of grid flexibility, grid stability, looking into charging, looking into especially storage technologies. Shall we deal with all of that? I think we have some ideas already, or there are already some ideas, some technologies to see how these challenges can be tackled from the technical perspective. I think there's a lot of potential, but also, again, some questions to solve when it comes to the enabling framework from the policy perspective, but also regulatory perspective, and so on and so on. And here again, I think joining hands between the energy, transport sector, and maybe other relevant sectors and key players is actually crucial to unlock the barriers and to allow also for not only for piloting and testing of cutting edge technologies, sector coupling technologies like bidirectional charging, but to also explore what are the potentials, opportunities for upscaling. And I think exactly this perspective, upscaling, I think it links quite nicely with the focus of today's webinar, which is placed on business models. Yeah, because I mentioned a little bit unlocking regulatory barriers, providing enabling framework from the policy perspective. I think this is one side of the coin, but we will also have to see when this technological opportunities will become also attractive for investors, attractive from the economic viability perspective, to really not only remain in the piloting or testing niche, but really make it into the mass market, so to speak. And here I think it's particularly important to explore also new innovative business models, business opportunities that are tailor-made to the very specific technologies that we are looking at, and that link maybe also with existing business model when it comes to energy, electricity pricing, for example, when it comes to also tapping into other technologies like smart grid, smart metering, and so on, to really take them on board as well and see what is the scope and how like business models, business opportunities can also contribute to the upscaling of these technologies to really allow, and here again, my link to the overall objective of the project, decarbonization, sector transition, sector integration, to really allow for this technical innovations to contribute on the big scale level to really drive the let's say mitigation contributions to the very ambitious climate targets that Germany and Thailand are sharing. So maybe just these as a couple of words to set the scene. I'm delighted to know that we have excellent expert speakers on board for today's webinar. I would like to also encourage all participants to please reflect on your questions, reflect on your comments, share everything with us, as this webinar is part of our ongoing Thai-German cooperation project. And of course, we're also learning together, as I mentioned at the beginning, learning through your contributions, through your questions, to see which aspects are of most relevance to our expert community to drive these kind of innovating topics forward, as well as the mutual learning that we would like to foster with this kind of activities and with the cooperation that the Thai-German Cooperation Project, Energy, Mobility and Climate, being funded by the International Climate Initiative and the German Federal Ministry of Economics and Climate Action is supporting. With these words, again, a very warm welcome to everyone, and I hand over to our wonderful moderator and expert also in the field, Fanny. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dominika. Thank you so much. And I'm very happy now to start, like, get really into the topic itself. Dominika already explained, like, or maybe described a bit, like, what is the potential of bidirectional charging. So let's start maybe with a quick Slido question around, so everybody can engage a bit. The first question would be, what is it that you think of when you hear bidirectional charging? Just to get like a really quick overview over where we're all, like, what is our starting point, where we're starting from? Because I think it's a very different background probably that we're all bringing to this webinar. And while you're typing in your answer, I might as well just already tell you what's next in this webinar. I will give you a quick overview over the bidirectional charging, explain maybe like the basic framework that is relevant here, and then I'll hand over to our speakers. Markus Fendt from the Mobility House is here, and Sita Sichat-Garun from EGAT. So I'm really happy that we have like these very, very good speakers that have a lot of expertise and know-how in this topic and represent Thailand and Germany. So yeah, very happy to get in that. And I can already see your answers. Yeah, and that's pretty much, yeah, what I'm thinking when I hear bidirectional charging. Yes, yeah, cool. Yeah, so like the basic, I can see like the basic definitions, like charging back into the grid. Exactly, that's pretty much what bidirectional charging means, or is a part of bidirectional charging. accelerating the energy and transport transition. I think we already heard this also from Dominika. Unclear regulation, probably gonna talk about this as well in this webinar. And the potential to have to reduce EV cost. Yeah, very innovative, good to push further. I like this. Yes, there's like some enthusiasm here. And I think we can build on that. Yeah, efficiency and more effective. Yeah. And also like already a couple of questions I can see here. Like who are the key stakeholders that we could just see that. Great. Okay, I think I can see there's nobody else that wants to type in a question. So thank you very much. I think that already gave us like a really good impression of where we're at. And yeah, hopefully we can dive a bit deeper and get into the details of that and maybe answer some questions or maybe just understand where open points are and what next steps could be to make it a bit more clear and answer those questions. So yeah, then I'll start with the mentioned overview over bidirectional charging. Just give me a second. And I hope now you could see the presentation. Perfect. Yes. Okay, so let's start maybe with what the actual challenge is. As you can see, and Dominika already mentioned this as well, Thailand has set itself very ambitious targets when it comes to e-mobility. We have 440,000 battery electric vehicles and fuel cell vehicles by 2030. And the number of electric vehicles in Thailand is rising. You can also see this from 2020 to 2024. There was a very steep increase. But still, of course, like almost in every country, it's still a long way to go. And a key measure how to reach this ambitious target in 2025, but also in 2030, is to reduce the cost of e-mobility for end users, of course. So that's, I would say, the challenge number one. How can we reduce the cost of e-mobility for end users? And the second challenge is that we also want to increase the share of renewable energies. And also here, Thailand first wants to move forward in regards to the energy transition and is here in a good way. There has been also a very steep increase, plus 129%, when we compare 2008 and 2023. And this means that there is an even bigger need for flexibility because when you rely on volatile energies like wind and solar, you need measures to match electricity supply and demand. So that's challenge number two, I would say. Where do we get all this flexibility from that we need to master the energy transition successfully? And this is exactly where bidirectional charging comes in. We've already heard this a bit, but I will explain a bit more why bidirectional charging is so relevant in this regard. Electric vehicles, as you can see here, they offer a very relevant flexibility potential. The right bubble represents the capacity of EGAT's pumped storage hydropower plant, so very relevant source of this flexibility. And the left bubble represents the capacity of those 440,000 electric vehicles that Thailand aims to have in 2030. So we see that electric vehicles, they could double the flexibility capacity in Thailand. And how do they do that? Well, they do that with bidirectional charging. And that means that vehicles charge when there is, for example, a lot of wind and solar power available, which means that the demand is increasing, or the charging rate is reduced when there's not a lot of renewable energy, when the sun is not shining and the wind is not blowing, or the grid, for example, is very full and there's not a lot of grid capacity that we can use. And that means the demand is lowered. electric vehicles have this flexibility because generally they are parked and not used for the majority of the day. So the time of charging it can be adapted according to the availability of energy and grid capacity. What's important is that there's just enough energy in the vehicle and the battery of the vehicle once the driver wants to use the car again, of course. Like that's the main goal that we have with a vehicle, of course. So electric vehicles offer this needed flexibility for a renewable energy system. And ideally, this is rewarded financially, and consumers, drivers of electric vehicles can profit from that. And that helps to reduce the cost of e-mobility and hopefully also support the ramp up of electric vehicles. So these two challenges that I mentioned before could be addressed by bidirectional charging. Okay, so now I just want to because probably our next speakers, they will talk a lot more about the specific use cases and how to implement bidirectional charging, but just, again, just to give like a really quick overview of two central use cases that we talk a lot about when we talk about bidirectional charging. So again, it's just like two examples. I think it's two central examples, but those can also be adapted and combined in various ways. There are a lot more use cases for bidirectional charging. So what we see here is vehicle to home, and that's a central use case, and it's self-consumption. And it means that the electric demand of the vehicle is covered as far as possible during periods of a high feed-in from the consumer's own PV system. And additional energy is stored in the vehicle battery and later can be used for the consumption in the household. And then the other use case would be vehicle to grid. And a central use case here when we feed electricity back into the grid is the wholesale market use case, the arbitrage. And that's based on the assumption that consumers receive a price signal that is based on the electricity market prices, and they have a dynamic tariff. Like you need that, so this use case actually works. If that is the case, consumers may control the charging process, so the vehicle is preferably charged in times of low energy prices. And then the electricity from the vehicle battery, again, is not only used for the vehicle itself, but also for consumption in a household. And also the electricity from that battery is fed back into the grid when electricity prices are high. So that's how you realize those arbitrage profits. And that's already pretty much it. Like a very quick overview over like the basic topic, I think, basic things in bidirectional charging. And hopefully that was a good starting point for our first speaker, Markus Fendt, which I'm very happy to hand the floor over. You're still muted, Markus, so I think you have to unmute yourself. But I think in a minute we'll be able to see your screen.
Sorry, yes, typical mistake. Dominika, Fanny, thank you very much for setting the scene, and thanks for giving us the chance to give a point of view on the European perspective of V2G. So I would like to guide you into kind of 3-4 areas. So potential, we already have seen an example from Fanny for Thailand. I will bring you a real life example, how it started to work now, cover slightly the values and the needed technology. And then I'm really interested in, to see how this evolves then later on also to Thailand. Let's talk about the potential with the German perspective. We have now below 1 million battery electric vehicles in Germany, actually 1.7 million. And these 1.7 million, they already have a storage capacity of 100 gigawatt hours. This is twice the capacity the Germans have built in pumped hydro over the last 150 years with 40 gigawatt hours and a capacity of roughly between 5 and 6 hours. So 3% electrification in Germany already doubled the capacity of pumped hydro of the last 150 years. Just to support your kind of imagination and to set the future scene, the potential we have in car batteries, which are unutilized 23 hours a day, which only drive 36 kilometers in average in Germany a day, is enormous. And we should and need to make use of that capacity we have sitting in our parking garages, driveways, depots, wherever. Even a logistic depot with commercial vehicles, they stand in average 14 hours a day if you include the weekend. So it's an enormous potential which we need to use and which will lower our energy cost significantly, because we need to build less power plants for a certain kind of emergency needs. We need to build less grids end, but we need to kind of get these small decentralized EVs connected. So this as a set the scene for the German market. And I don't want to go through this slide in detail. You get the presentation afterwards and you can study it. It's a slide from McKinsey. We have done a study together. And the only thing you have to look on the very left side, you see V2G full trading. You see that they have negative short-run marginal cost because the battery is paid already. And for V2G, we only use untapped areas of the battery you would never use otherwise, because the battery lasts much longer than the vehicle life. So you have negative cost to use V2G in an energy system. There are a couple of other cheap sources like stationary storage and so, but V2G is the cheapest source for short-run marginal cost. So it has an enormous potential in the market. How does this look in reality? So first you need a bidirectional car. I'd show you the example of Renault, which is live since November last year in France. They brought a bidirectional vehicle, the Renault R5. They realized it on AC basis, so both is possible, bidirectional charging on AC or DC. We will see how this evolves over time. Renault started with AC because it's cheaper to realize in front of the customer. You need an AC bidirectional charging station. Actually, that charging station has nothing to do except to shut the grid off in terms of emergency, so to cut the power off. So it's a very cheap charging station. So it costs below 1,000 euros for Renault customer, because all the bidirectional technology is in the car. And as you can see on the very right-hand side, you need an interface where the customer can enable V2G, the upper hand green button, and then gives a range in what kind of range you would like to do V2G. So Renault certainly has a minimum range, and the customer can say, no, I always want to have a 50% filled battery. So he doesn't set it on 20% like you see on that picture, but can also set it on 50%. And this depends on your own kind of security level and cautiousness you might have, or your own mobility pattern. And we have the first customer posting end of January. And I would like to explain how we do it in a real life example. He was posting that he gained back, this is in the red circle, 50 euros in January. How did he realize that? Whenever the customer plugs in, we pay as Mobilize and Mobility House as the energy and technology provider behind Mobilize, which is the EV brand or EV ecosystem of Renault. We pay the customer 11 cents for plugged in time. We realized that this is the in our point of view, currently the best setup, because we need the customers to plug in the vehicle, because otherwise we can't do anything with the vehicle. We can't contribute to the energy market. So the more he plugs in, the more he earns. And you see, he plugged in 463 hours in January, which is around 62% of the month, for 15 hours a day. So it's a rather he has a lot of time to plug in, but he also drove 1,100 kilometers. So it's not a second use car. He's using that car every day to work. So you see the untapped potential of a car. Whenever you can plug it in, you get these 11 cents. And at the end of the month, it makes 50 euros. His total energy bill was 59 euros. So he drove 1,100 kilometers for 10 euros just by plugging in. And this might be an example on the high side. Most of the customers we currently have are rather on the in the 30-ish. But I wanted to take this example because he posted it. But it's just starting. We do not have a vast quantity on that we can, and we just have 3 months that we can give a proper analysis on that. But just that you have a first example how it can work. And you see that more and more car manufacturers now come with bidirectional vehicles. I assume from next year onwards, there will not be any other car or every car will be available in bidirectionality. More charging station manufacturers will go into that topic. And the third thing is regulation. And the key, and I also don't want to get into any detail here, but just to give you a perspective, the key to realize values is to make the energy market available for as much products for vehicles as possible. We call it the piano. The more keys you have on a piano to play, the better the music sounds. And the more energy products are available to vehicles, to batteries, the more kind of value we can create for the system, but also for energy EV drivers. So currently the key market is certainly the intraday continuous market, but there are also auxiliary markets, there are backup power markets, there are kind of markets which are behind the meter, where you optimize your own profile, and there are the in front of the meter markets. What we don't see at all, UK is just starting, our grid markets, like grid products. So all these markets need to be addressed and opened for EVs over the course of time, that we can generate maximum values for EVs. To give you a very brief overview where the values are, from a European perspective, these are all intraday values you can achieve if you commercialize a vehicle, either unidirectional, V1G, or bidirectional in the market. These are full traded values. So certainly you have to deduct, let's say, an OEM margin. We have costs and we want to have a margin. So roughly we always assume that you get around half of those values in oops, do you still see it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Then it's just me, I don't see it anymore.
No, we can still see the presentation and hear you very well.
Sorry. So just half of the value will end up with the customer. We assume, and not every market is already available for V2G. So the German market, we could achieve these values, but from a regulatory perspective, we have to pay so much grid fees that the values are eaten up by the double grid fees. So the picture should show you what a vehicle can generate. The picture should show you that the annual driving cost of around 800 euros you have in Europe roughly per EV based on 30 cents energy prices, which you can roughly assume per kilowatt hour. You can, with V2G, drive more or less for free if you make the energy market available for EVs. What do you need for that from a technology perspective? You need to bring together the volatile energy markets of the future, so more and more solar, wind, but also the restricted grids, because the energy costs are increasing not due to the energy prices of renewables, it's because of increasing grid costs. And to bring that together, you need three things. You need an interface layer between the vehicle in the different use cases, being it a private vehicle, being it a bus depot, being it a logistic depot, being it a workplace charging, being it charging at home. So you need some kind of interface. You have seen the app of Renault. If you are with several cars behind the meter, you need some kind of load management upfront behind the meter. So this is the first layer. Then you need to aggregate all those vehicles with their frame conditions, which is the mobility need, which is the battery constraints the car OEM gives you, which are the grid constraints you might have at that site or at that time, and the energy market value. Ideally, you choose something out of the complete piano you have seen before. And then you can trade or monetize, commercialize these aggregated vehicles in kind of different sizes and quantities to the energy market. So these three technology layers are necessary to realize that in principle. So I hope you got a good overview about the huge potential, how it is starting with Renault in France, UK and the Netherlands will follow, where the values are coming from and roughly how high they are, and what is needed from a technology perspective. And I'm looking forward to see the Thai perspective as well than the discussion later on. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that was very interesting already. Again, I would like to encourage our participants to type in their questions into Slido so we can really get into the discussion later on at the end of this webinar. And yeah, without further ado, I would like to hand the floor over to our next speaker, Khurram. The floor is yours.
Hi everyone. My name is Setasit Chakarun from Business Development of EGAT. I am also head of Digital Utilities and New Energy Business Section, and I am head of V2G and VPP Research and Development Project as well. Nice to see you all. Today I would like to show you some business case that we are thinking we can do in the future. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so today I would like to talking about a possible business for bidirectional charging in Thailand. Okay, first of all, EGAT is the state-owned enterprise under Ministry of the Energy and Ministry of Finance. We have a lot of mission to do. We have a power generation transmission system. We put more renewable energy in the portfolio, and also we have a field business for power generation, and we are a system operator to control the frequency for the whole country. And we have just established a new entity to do the demand response control center to dispatch the new technology such as V2G, VGI, something like that. And we also have the RE, Renewable Energy Forecasting Control Center in the EGAT entity. And also we have EV business like a EV station in a highway and a shopping mall, something like that. And also we have a subsidiary company to run our business that EGAT cannot do. Okay, for the policy, climate goal and policy direction, EGAT would like to help and support Thai government to achieve carbon neutrality in 2050. So we have a lot of work to do, put more renewable energy up to 50% with EHS, add more EV up to 30% in 2030. And we have to do the regulation, help to have a digitalization, and so on. So what EGAT do to support the goal? Okay, we have a utility green tariff to support the green tariff renewable energy with the REC for the company that would like to buy the energy that green energy. And we try to create the EGAT V2G and VPP project to show how that is work, and we try to find opportunity to control the all electric vehicle to be like a virtual power plant in the future. But right now, Thai electricity industry is we call enhanced single buyer. We still buy the power plant IPP, SPP, and VSPP. Some power plant from produced from EGAT power plant, and we import hydropower from Laos. We are the system operator to take care of the frequency for the whole country and transmit the power to distribution utilities. We call MEA and PEA, and transfer to the end user. We was regulated by regulator, and we have to do from the policy maker. In Smart Grid Plan from Energy Policy Maker or Apple, they try to prepare the regulation, the policy for the EV integration in the nearly future. So EGAT, in terms of utility, we have to help Apple to test and confirm the technology is proof enough, and how we help the policy maker to set up the policy and the regulation. In the PDP plan 2024, the demand response and V2G already in the PDP plan around 2,000 megawatt in the next 7 years. We try to reduce the peak in the nighttime by demand response and V2G. So we have to prepare now. If we would like to have 2,000 megawatt, it should have the more than 500,000 cars that capable to do V2G. This picture show about the timeline of the plan of the aggregator from private company that can participate with the demand response control center that EGAT will be in the future. And we try to create a market around 2,000 megawatt. Okay, so the possible business of bidirectional charging in Thailand that I'm thinking is can do in the nearly future. We separate to be the short term and the mid term and long term. Okay, for the short term, like a simple business case, I think a bidirectional charging solution can offer tariff management services for the customer when they have the car and the bidirectional charger together and install in the household. I think the bidirectional charger can help the customer reduce the electricity tariff from peaking low price from 5.89 89 Thai baht per kilowatt hour to be 2.69 Thai baht per kilowatt hours. So the customer can save per unit around 3.2 Thai baht. So you can see if they have a consumption around 7 kilowatt per hours every day. So for the month, they can save around 2,240 Thai baht per month. And then we will save 26,000 Thai baht per year. Is a huge number that I think is enough for the value of the bidirectional charging solution. But the thing that we have to do, okay, we have to set the bidirectional charger inverter code for installation with MEA and PA area that you can try to set and test with MEA and PA area within this year. Now we have the project we call ERC sandbox from the regulator to test discharge energy from the bidirectional charger into the MEA and PA grid to test the inverter code between MEA and PA area. After that, I think this business case we can adopt in the Thai market. And if the customer they have the PV, they can charge the car by PV. I think we can save more money from the charging by PV solar rooftop. Secondly, after we install the bidirectional charger at home and we already have a grid code, I think we can utilize this battery to aggregate to be the flexibility, flexibility contract with the aggregator and sell the megawatt to demand response control center to reduce the peak from the power system in the nighttime in the next 5 years or 7 years. But we have to prepare the thing. First, the price per kilowatt hour from the RCC have to be set by regulator. Secondly, the budget from the service from pilot project on tariff from the Apple and regulator have to be set. Data sharing from smart meter from MEA and PA to third party. When we get consent from the customer, have to open the data. Okay. Lastly, I think we can do advanced business case in the long term. If everything is already, we can do the virtual energy storage flexibility resource contract with aggregator like in Germany. When we have dynamic pricing, when we have the frequency control mechanism, we can serve tertiary reserve MFRR service product to the system operator TSO, the congestion management product for the TSO and DNO, and also we can use the battery electric vehicle like to control voltage control product for the distribution line, and we can sell energy back to the grid when the tariff is dynamic. The thing that we have to do is set the dynamic pricing to by the regulator and set the MFRR market mechanism by TSO and voltage control distribution market mechanism that have to set by DNO, and the price of V2G tariff that sell back to the grid have to set by regulator. I think 3 business case that will be happening in the future if we can set the regulation. I think, for my opinion, the technology is almost already in the nearly future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to you. I think, I think that was very interesting, and I'm want to say thank you very much to you and also to Marcus, because you supplied some very specific numbers, which I think makes it more concrete and really enables us to talk a bit more about or to think a bit more about concrete business models. So I think that was very helpful. And I think the first question that comes up, and you just touched on this with your last comment on that, you said you think the technology is almost there or almost ready. So my first question to you both would be, are the vehicles and the charging infrastructure already ready to bidirectionally charge, or is there maybe a difference between various countries, or is there something that needs to be done by regulators? And maybe let's start with you, Marcos.
You have to derive it in several aspects. The first is you need certain standards that the industry starts, because we are not in a garage scene. We are talking to car OEMs, we are talking to electrical equipment manufacturer. So they need certain standards that they start working. These standards are existing more or less since April 2022. And they are now quite elaborated. So you will see all cars coming from next year onwards, but already many by now, which are capable for bidirectional charging. This is the so-called, often named ISO 15118-20. So this is kind of starting. The next step is the so standard car and then the charger. On the charger side, we are still in its infancy. There have been a lot of project chargers, but they did not need the full certification, which is quite challenging because you have standards or certification bodies in every country. So this is just starting. There is a handful of charger manufacturers now going into large scale, but we need much more there. And so I assume that in the beginning, you will always have proprietary solutions that a car manufacturer starts with the charger manufacturers to deliver the car, because the fourth part of all that is to assure the interoperability. And we have seen that in public charging, it is quite a challenge that all the players, vehicles, backend providers or technology providers like we, and chargers work smoothly together. So you are there in a phase of easily 2 to 3 years. And this is starting now to assure that in front of the customer, you will start proprietary in the beginning and then subsequently open up. So I think we see now, to summarize this, a phase of around 2 to 3 years of interoperability kind of work, which has to be done. And then certainly, and that's the key point, is also that we get a regulatory framework to integrate vehicles, because customers will only use it if they have any advantage out of it. So this is not an altruistic model. At the end, it is business. And it must be business for the car manufacturer, the charger manufacturer, the customer. And that means that kind of the regulatory body needs to integrate storage, and not only stationary storage, as many countries do, like the UK, Netherlands, Belgium. You see kind of like mushrooms, they are popping out of the ground, but also mobile storage, which is actually when it's plugged in stationary. So that's a thing which has to happen now, because otherwise we will not speed up the industry, and it will always be more or less on a project level.
Okay, thank you. Then, Kuno, maybe you can tell us a bit more about what the situation is in Thailand, because I'm imagining that there are differences between countries and regions. Would you also agree? Yes, there are vehicles, especially vehicles available, or there will soon be vehicles available in Thailand, and the charging infrastructure is also on its way to become, yeah, bidirectional.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Fanny. I think this year is a testing year. Yeah, that it can try to test the compatibility between the car and the charger. And we would like to test both of them, DC and AC bidirectional charging system. And the thing that we think about, actually, EGAT, we understanding why I would like to decide it to go AC bidirectional charging for the household. It makes sense for the costing because the AC bidirectional charging is the best option for the household. It's cheaper than DC bidirectional 5 times, I think. So actually, I would like to test all of the car brand with the AC bidirectional charging system. And after that, we try to produce AC bidirectional charger at cheapest that much as possible for Thai people to reduce the cost of installation, because the infrastructure is significant for the cost is significant for the bidirectional charging system. And we would like to cooperate with the car brand to test with AC bidirectional charger. But DC is the transition period to use DC bidirectional charging. Yeah, we would like to test both of them with ISO 15118.20, like Marcus said. Yeah, we have to test both of them. I think today we invite every car brand in Thailand to test with us, and we will be host to the testing for the whole car brand, to test with all Thai, all model, every brand that have electric vehicle in Thailand. And we would like to, but for my opinion, I fully agree about the AC is better for the Thai country, cheapest, because we can install in the workplace, we can install bidirectional in the household, both sides. We can charge the car during the solar power can production, and we can discharge the car when we don't have the solar power at the night time. So AC is the cheapest option for Thai people. So we have to do testing in this year and set the grid code in this year. And after that, we would like to promote with the car brand to build the onboard charger AC bidirectional in their car when they produce the car in the manufacturer. This is our goal that we try to do in this year. But we have to have a lot of stakeholder to collaborate with the Ministry of the Energy, Ministry of the Industrial, Ministry of the Transportation.
Yes.
Every stakeholder have to agree to set the policy. Otherwise, we have to sign MOU between car brand, it takes time a lot. So
that's what, yeah, I think, thank you. Yeah, I think that's what I also would like to touch on. So interesting, like to hear, like you're saying, okay, now you're in Thailand, you're trying to get an overview of what vehicles, what charging infrastructure really works, and then to start and see, okay, where do we need to really work and what needs to be done. But of course, first you have to get an overview. And Marcus, you also already described a bit like what needs to be done, and it seems a bit to me it seems almost a bit obvious, like of course it seems like such an easy story, right? Like you have these electric vehicles, everybody is agreeing we need them, we need e-mobility, and then bidirectional charging makes so much sense. You can earn so much money, you can reduce the cost, and the technology is almost there. So what is it then that makes it so difficult to implement? Like in your day-to-day work as a company that sells this business model, what do you like? Is it the consumers that are hesitant, or is it the regulators that don't really understand? And also, Kunom already mentioned like the collaboration between the different regulators. So yeah, maybe you can tell us a bit about that.
More than welcome. Many products which are technology highly complex. For example, dig a little bit into Netflix or mobile phones. How this works, that you go from country to country, that you watch your movie in high resolution everywhere on every device. All these technology developments, they are, if you look behind the theme and not just how you use it as a consumer, are highly complex. And we have one or three additional challenges with the energy transition, and especially because we are talking to the big players which are already there. So Netflix could start it on green ground, or mobile phones just develop totally parallel to landlines. We are now interfering or transitioning car OEMs from combustion to electricity. We are transitioning a top-down energy system to a bottom-up energy system, a more or less stable energy system, which could be controlled like, out of one control room for a complete country, to many players, which now control devices in your house, the car, into all different kinds of energy markets. And we need to kind of bring all that with new technology, digital together. This is a huge challenge. And everything starts, I think, with a vision, with a kind of a picture, with a motivation to say, wow, it actually can be better than it was before. And currently, I have the feeling that many of discussions are still looking back and say, yeah, our cars haven't been so bad. Yeah, the gas power plants are not so bad. And everything is more complex. Everything seems like to be more expensive, but it isn't. And we now kind of need to start to do it, and then we will solve it like we solved many different other technology topics. And we don't need to take care about the technology so much. We need to take care about creating a positive mindset, a positive future, because at the end, this will be a better, a more resilient, a more CO2 free, and a cheaper system.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, I think that's definitely probably true for Germany, at least. That's my perspective as well. Like we have this very big automotive industry that, yes, of course, like has done a business model for a long time and has been proven to be successful, and now we have to change. So that's also, of course, a challenge. In Thailand, there is also quite a significant automotive industry. So I guess it's probably a bit similar in Thailand. And yeah, I would also like to hear from you, of course, Kunal, like what do you think, like what needs to be changed? I also wanted to highlight, because you mentioned this very specific number of, I think, 26,000 baht that you could save per year as a consumer, which is quite a lot. And maybe just to give a comparison to European listeners, it's like I would say you could eat like really well in Bangkok for 200 baht and like a lot of food. So just like to have an idea of how much that actually is, it's a quite significant amount that you mentioned there. So it seems again also like a very attractive thing to do for consumers. So what is the challenge from your perspective? Like why hasn't it happened yet in Thailand?
I think the technology is almost done by the standardization from ISO 15020. But the challenge is, I think, is we separate to the technology, and I think the charger will be here, but the car manufacturer don't want to go if not set to be the policy. This is the challenge because some car brand I asked them why you don't want to change to the bi-directional charging system. They said they can do it, but said please set to be the policy first, and I will do it for you. But from EGAT perspective, we would like to utilize the battery like a pump hydro that Marcus said. Yeah, but we cannot command the car manufacturer to do for us. So we have to convince the policymaker. We have to convince the government to help us to motivate a car manufacturer that have the factory in Thailand to help us to build the onboard bidirectional charging system AC into the car. I think it will be easy when the car that equipped with the onboard charger that have the ISO 15118.20, they can plug the charging gun AC Type 2 into their car. That's it. Easy way to go. I think it's the cheapest way for the customer as well, because actually EGAT governor would like to do this way, but because they think about if we do slowly, the car that sell every day, the EV cars sell every day around 3,000 unit every day, but didn't equip the onboard charger AC bidirectional. So it means that this car will not can capable control the power from their battery. We have to modify something later, right? So if we set to be the policy, we can utilize them when the customer buy the electric vehicle into their home. So I think the policy maker have to help us to convince the whole country between energy sector and transportation sector and industrial sector. So I think have to have 3 ministry of for the energy, industrial, transportation, sign MOU something together around that. I think it's a challenge because otherwise it's hard to convince the car manufacturer to build the OBC in their car for us. Otherwise we have to install the DC bidirectional charger in the household instead of AC. So the cost, if we hire 5 times than AC, this is I think the big challenge for the technology and cost. After that, the grid code. I think, but the grid code, MEA and PA can help us to set the grid code within this year. I think another thing will be not the big challenge.
Maybe let me jump in there. I think because what you mentioned, I think is quite significant, and that you could also hear that from Michael's answers, and you can witness that in Europe as well. And I think it's always the same, like with every technological change, you need someone to push forward. Like, of course, industry actors and consumers, they will be a bit hesitant. So the regulators, they need to make that first step and ensure planning security, investment security for everybody. And there was a question directed to you, Kunom, and it's kind of in that direction as well. How do you plan to incentivize and fairly compensate EV owners for V2G participation in a single buyer market, which is Thailand, with limited competition, like in Thailand? Is there, like, what is the plan that EGAT has? Do you plan to financially reward consumers for participating in bidirectional charging, or is it rather a requirement and you're just making them do it?
Okay, well, We are planning about the incentive the customer who participate us, and in the sandbox project we pay them. We already paid them when customer joins our platform and enjoy for our control system. We can charge and discharge that bidirectional charger remotely. We are testing the price signal and like a viability payment when customer plug the charging gun into the car and join with us 4 hours, like a firm storage. We have the price mechanism a little bit in the draft that we are testing in the testing project, and we try to find the minimum cost for the tariff that we pay to the customer, but the price I think is makes sense for the demand response with the energy source from the car. I think it makes sense for the price that makes sense is 2.5 Thai baht per kilowatt hours is enough for the aggregator, and after that aggregator can pay to the customer around 1.5 or 1.2 Thai baht per kilowatt hours. I think it will be additional from the customer who participate the virtual power plant again after they got the tariff management when they reduce the peak demand price already, like to price for them. The first benefit, they can reduce the peak from the bidirectional charger when they discharge energy when during the peaking time, right? 3.2 Thai baht per kilowatt hours. They already save the tariff. After that, they also earn money from the aggregator around 1.5 Thai baht per kilowatt hours when
So
they participate. Yeah.
Because there's another question. Is it planned to introduce these dynamic tariffs for EVs, specifically for EVs in Thailand? Like, is it already planned that those dynamic tariffs will be implemented very soon, or is it still like an idea that you have to see when it will happen?
For your question, dynamic pricing is under developing from the policymaker, from Apple. They are considering the dynamic pricing. Yes.
But there isn't like a specific deadline or like
no,
yes,
not
like
yet.
2026 there will be this.
Not yet.
Okay, so it's
Not
still
yet.
in the planning phase. Okay.
Yes, it's a planning phase, but I don't know the timeline that will be finished.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Marcus, we talked a bit about Germany, specifically and Thailand, and we will do so, but I also wanted to hear, is there maybe a very good example and another country that is already doing it very well and that we can learn from? And also maybe if you could touch on, are there specific experiences, like best cases, maybe best case scenarios, or also mistakes in Germany that Thailand or other countries could learn from that we could share, but just like to have this international perspective.
So the key driver is what I mentioned before, to have an energy market where you have access to as many products as possible. If we think about European deregulated market, or as Kunom said, a kind of energy supplier, it can be also just one who is integrating them. So I think it's much easier if you have just one. We see it in France. You have EDF more or less. You have the French government. You have Renault as one of the big car manufacturers, and you have Enedis as one more or less big player on the grid side. So for them to sit together and say, okay, let's start and try it, and let's forget about that double taxation on the grid side. Let's see what we can learn and do out of it. It's much easier. In Germany, with kind of a very deregulated market, many players who fear that they might not have any business in the future, especially the old incumbents, 860 something grid operators, a government which is rather kind of past orientated. It's much more complicated. A good example, I think, is really the UK. Because they are always kind of commercially driven in all their decisions, they have a very commercially driven regulator, so saving at the end money for the taxpayers. They are also quite pragmatic, so they are not so over-concerned than like the German BSI on data security and stuff like this. And they also have to be more pragmatic because the grid is by far not so good in the UK than it is in Germany. So they are a very good example. The highest value you can currently achieve with an electric vehicle is in the UK. They open the market fast, they try, but they also change fast. So I would see them as one of the best examples. Texas or California or the Netherlands are copying part of that. France, as I said, is special. Germany, let's see how the new government works on it. I think there is a strong push now, especially from car manufacturers also, because at the end, it makes an electric vehicle much more cheaper than the whole TCO, if you can also give some part of your battery to the energy system, and then more or less drive for free or half the price. Let's see where we end up at the then finally. So that's currently I would look to the UK.
Okay. And maybe because this is also a question here, and I think it's an important aspect, because we keep talking about passenger vehicles when we talk about bidirectional charging, but do you also think, or maybe the Mobility House has already even worked on such use cases with heavy duty vehicles or trucks and buses?
That's a very good point. Certainly, kind of all the other vehicles are as well interesting. As I said, even logistic vehicles, they stand quite a while. Currently, we do not focus on any market segment. We will take all. It's just easier to focus on one single car currently. Because a fleet operator, as soon as bidirectional charging will come also to fleet vehicles, which is not the case yet. So all these LCVs, like these ID bus type of transport vehicles, they have to be as cheap as possible because they are a working tool for them. So the bidirectional functionality is there last. And comes first with higher priced passenger vehicles. So therefore, the focus was not there, but certainly those players will, as soon as it is there, start first because, as I said, it's a working tool. They want to lower their TCO. How it then works for truck charging and so on, we will see. I think at the end, everything will be connected because it just doesn't matter. Whenever it's parked and whenever you have idle time, you use it. But let me phrase one thing, because you mentioned it in the beginning, it's the vehicle to home, which is a very German specific thing because we like to have private solar. We are worldwide more or less leading on that. We like to have home storage system. We are also worldwide leading on that. We have 17 gigawatt hours and in small home storages in Germany. So this sounds nice to use a vehicle bidirectional with your home. And certainly every customer can do that. For an energy system, it doesn't help because it's just optimizing yourself. it's optimizing you more or less during summertime. Your battery is by far too big because you don't need it. You have an average 10 kilowatt hours per day in a normal house, so your battery is by far too big. So the real value comes out of vehicle to grid being part aggregated of an energy system, and not from vehicle to home, where it's more a private cost optimization. You can't earn money with that, but you reduce your energy bill slightly.
Interesting point, because we also talk about this a lot at Agora. Like, is there maybe use case that would be a bit more realistic to realize sooner? Kunum, what do you think? Like, is this prosumer use case? So, the end consumer has EPV system on their roof and an electric vehicle in their garage and is optimizing this home system. Is that a use case that is relevant for Thailand? I'm thinking also maybe it would be helpful because it's also a way to reduce the need for transportation in the grid of electricity. Or would you say no? Like, you totally agree with Marcus? The prosumer use case, it's nice to have, but it's not like the thing where the value comes from for the energy system.
I think I understand your question or not. You mean that customer point of view, then they have a fully function PV system and the bidirectional charging system and storage. Or this is your question?
Yeah, maybe I can try to make it a bit more specific. Like, do you think bidirectional charging, you can use it for your own household consumption with your PV system, or you can use the flexibility from your car for the energy system in general, like for the grid or for the electricity market? And which one do you think, like, do you think they're equally important, or one is more important than the other?
For customer perspective, I think which one is have value more than another one. I think the first thing, for the household, tariff management only is enough for them. Maybe they can utilize their battery from electric vehicle by themselves. But if they would like to participate more with the energy market or demand response program of EGAT, they can join with us. In the second option, they can do both. They can utilize the tariff, but another money that they can earn, they can get the benefit from incentive from the EGAT as well, something like that. I think their asset can utilize their own tariff, and also they can help the whole power system as well in the same time. I think it's a benefit of the customer and a benefit of the utilities to control the frequency, to control the flexibility, to control the reliability for power grid. I think it's a benefit both of them. Both of us.
Do you think the regulator, though, excuse me, do you think the regulator should focus on one of the use cases? Because maybe it's better to realize one before the other. Or do you think it's possible for the regulator to implement both these use cases?
For me, I think should start from the installation, from the grid code to set the standards for the installation bidirectional charging system. After that, I think the market will drive by themselves, because the car brand will equip the onboard charger in their car from ISO 15948-20, and then the customer will get AC bidirectional in their home. After that, they will utilize the asset for their house, for their tariff first. This is the first thing that should do. After that, okay, when the utilities would like to control, to dispatch the function of the electric vehicle together like an aggregator, I think the regulator will set the tariff again for the demand response program to add more value for the customer. I think it should go like this way.
Yeah, I think
Locally first, and after that remotely for the whole power system.
yeah, I think it's interesting because at least to me, as also of course a listener to you both, it sounds like there is a slight time difference, of course. Like Marcos just explained, yeah, now we have the standard, and now the auto manufacturers are able to implement them, and the charging infrastructure will come. But it also sounded like there's still so much to do, and you're describing it, I think maybe from like a bit like a perspective a bit earlier. Like, yeah, like we just need these standards, and once we have the standards, everything will move by itself. So it's interesting to listen to you both. Of course, they're different market environments, but so I would maybe as one of the almost the last question because we are coming to an end now. But so Marcus, would you agree? Like, do you also have this perspective? Yes, once the standards are set and there are communication protocols for vehicles and charging infrastructure, yeah, then it's pretty much like just let the market do its magic, if you want to say it that way.
As mentioned before, we have to accept that even if a standard is written, the first standard you write is never perfect. The first standard you implement as a car manufacturer is never is slightly different than it's written, and and the first charger manufacturer also implements it slightly different. So they come together and it not really works perfectly. So this as an example that an industry grows together takes time. And the most important point is starting. And ideally, you set frame conditions that customers are demanding it. Because if customers are now buying a Renault because they drive for 1,000 kilometers for 10 euros, then Renault says, wow, cool, we can sell more cars. Renault dealers will promote V2G more because they see they can sell more cars. The press will pick it up because it's different, and they need to report something which is special, different, interesting. So, and then kind of a circle starts and a pull effect comes. Currently, we are still in that industry mindset, discussing to a certain degree. It's also kind of engineering brainfuck. Certainly, it's not clear if it's AC or DC, and certainly currently it looks that AC might be cheaper. But we all don't know this. We need to start, and ideally we start thinking from the customer, and then we learn and kind of grow continuously and get better continuously. And this is what I meant, that we need now these examples, these first countries, customers, manufacturers who do it, and then it will spread out. Because imagine that French customers start more and more having V2G and getting driving half the price. German press and customers will pressurize our authorities and politicians.
Mm. And yeah, so maybe last question to each of you. We'll start with you, Marcus. You could already hear it a bit. What is your general outlook? You think, yes, there is, I mean, it's the business model of your company. So you think there is a business model and bidirectional charging, and yes, you're optimistic that soon will happen, or are you a bit skeptical currently? What is your outlook?
I think it's proven now that it works, that many want to have it, car manufacturers, regulators. If you look into all EU policy paper, if you look to BDEV, to VDA, even in the last coalition paper, let's see how the new one will look like. So V2G, it will not go away. For me, the key question is, do we as an industry nation, Germany, gain advantage out of it, that we get into an industry leadership, that we export things, that we create kind of economic value in Germany with that? Or do we just wait until UK companies, French companies, Chinese companies, or whoever, US companies are doing it, and then we adapting something from abroad? The latter one is not an advantage for Germany. And I think what we need to get into the driver's seat. And yes, it's tougher if you drive a road which hasn't been driven before, and you need to dare more, and you make mistakes, and you can't plan everything. But if you manage it, you also celebrate a much bigger success. And we have proven that as an industry nation quite often. And I think this should be our ambition from a German perspective.
Okay, so Kunom, of course, the same question to you for Thailand. I think also similar situation and maybe ambition that Thailand is the country that has this USP in Asia. What do you think? What is your outlook on bidirectional charging in Thailand?
Yeah, I think obviously bidirectional charging is the future for the electricity in the future. I'm sure, I'm not doubt about how does it work, is will not work or not. I'm not doubt right now. So I fully understand its work, but the time response is very fast, like of storage is less than 10 seconds. We can ramp up the power up to 1,000 megawatt in the future. I think we can do it like a pump hydro, and the RAM rate is higher than pump hydro. I think cheapest technology for the utilities, for the power grid, I'm sure. I think the thing that we try to do right now is how to accelerate this technology, how to make it easy, how to make it simple for Thai people that we are doing. How to make the customer simple that we can do. Customer can plug the charging gun into the car. That's it. We can automatically for every customer, and we can automatically dispatch for the whole battery for the power grid that we are thinking about. After that, we'll try to reduce the cost of the infrastructure, such as the bidirectional charger. That's why we try to produce in our subsidiary company. We are doing today.
Perfect.
For the future, yes. And
yeah, sorry, we're already over the time. But I think that's like the main points that we heard here are very important. Make it simple for the consumer, and I appreciate very much that we were able to end on like a very enthusiastic and positive note here. And hopefully, dear participants, that you were able to take that enthusiasm with you and gain some insights. And thank you so much, Markus. Thank you so much, Kunom. And looking forward to the further discussion. So thank you and have a nice day, afternoon.
Thank you.
More than welcome.
Danke schön.